Good morning, football fans, and welcome to a very early recap of a very late night. I am Doug Gann with 446 Sports and the Pelicans Sports Report, and we are delighted to bring you on each Saturday morning the Red River Roundup hosted by Marshall Loeffler. And Marshall, I'm glad to be here and not on an airplane this morning, but good morning.
Good morning. Look, you and I are tired, but there's got to be some coordinators on a particular side of the ball that are going to be exhausted. I got 14 teams really quick, Doug, that I want to run through with you. Cedar Creek, West Ouachita, Catholic Point Coupé, Jeanerette, Evangel, Pineville, Ruston, Belle Chase, Northwood Shreveport, Lake Charles College Prep, Barb, St. Amand, Dunham, and Slaughter Charter. What do you think all of those teams have in common?
They scored they scored a crap ton of points is what
each of those teams went over 60 points last night. And if we were to lower that to 50, we'd run out of room on the sheet of paper. It's really good weather this time of year. I don't think there was a drop of rain all around the state. So it was an offensive week all over the Pelican State.
Look, and Barb and Lake Charles College Prep were playing each other. So
yeah.
One of those 5-hour games or whatever, if you will.
Yeah, it was like I said. This was it was ideal weather pretty much for everyone. All those offenses to score. We'll probably see that tighten up over the season. But a couple other highlights that I noticed. You and I were both at Butch Stoker Stadium on Thursday night for the Ash game. But one thing I do want to do, I've been waiting to shout them out. The Southwood Cowboys last won a regular season football game in 2019 in week 9, Thursday night at Lee Hedges Stadium in Shreveport. They got a 1-point win over the Arcadia Hornets. And I know people all over the state have been waiting to see the Cowboys get off the schneid there. Got a new head coach this year. So bravo, kudos, and keep up the good work to Southwood getting a win there. Trojans dominated at home on Thursday night. So they're 2-0. They'll go on the road next week to Destrehan. That's a huge game that I can't wait to follow. But, Ash was dominant at home against the Union Farmers. Again, we saw a bit of a basketball game breakout in Lake Charles. We'll talk to Chaston as far as about that one. Cecilia goes down 0-2. They fall to St. Amand, one of those 60-point scorers. So I believe St. Thomas More and Cecilia and maybe even E.D. White, a few teams that were in New Orleans last year, 0-2.
You got to remember, too, and I just interject, too, these teams, we've seen a lot of them do that. Cecilia, the defending state champs, yes, they've lost Diesel Solari. They've lost some of their players. But you look at the Union and you look at some of these in Sterlington that are playing a lot of tough out-of-conference teams on
St. Thomas More, yeah.
When the dust settles, they're going to be there. St. Thomas More has a big one with Acadiana. Acadiana sitting at 0-2 right now after losses to Ruston and to Zachary last night. Mm-hmm. So it's big games out of the chute. They're sitting at 0-2.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot of coaches, as many as we've talked to over the years, that aren't worried about 0-2 at all, and sometimes not even necessarily worried about 0-3. They're worried about 6-4 or something like that, whatever they need to get into the playoffs at the beginning of the year. Speaking of playoffs, you mentioned Ruston. They're rolling. They've scored 100 points through 2 weeks. Franklin Parish, in some polls, we skipped over them last week, but they're at the top of 4A. Depending on who you ask. They had a good win last night at St. Fred's. And, we mentioned kind of the nightcap last night was Edna Carr with a big statement game, hosting American Heritage out of Florida, the Superdome, getting it done there.
Big games like that, they played that in the Superdome, and that was the Ed Daniels Classic, I think is what that was.
Yes, yeah.
And so that was tremendous. But a big shout out to our boy Jordan Taylor and Under the Lights. They took all their stuff down last night after the game, drove over to Arlington, and they're doing St. Ed's over in Texas Stadium today, or Arlington, or whatever they're calling Jerry World these days. There's a big game over there going on in Arlington area, so they'll stream that one today. I guess kickoff's around 2:00. But it just goes to show you there's big games all over, and that's great to see.
Yeah, it's week one had a lot of matchups that, of course, everyone had weeks and months to look at. There were some really good ones last night. You mentioned Zachary and Acadiana. Neville and Calvary faced off again this year. Tigers took that win. That's not an easy trip for Ruston going against the Cabot, Arkansas. That's not an easy opponent by any means. So those tough matchups continue. Another one, Furling's Catholic right here on 446. They got a 46-14 win over Sam Houston. So these playoff atmospheres are exactly what teams are trying to mimic. Talking to the Ash coaching staff a little bit next week, them going down to Destrehan in September in week 3 is exactly, all part of the plan for many reasons. So those types of challenges, are exactly, exactly what these big time coaches want. And really, you hope the players do as well.
Look, when we talked to a lot of the players after the game was over with last night, or Thursday night as it is now, you saw that, and it was I don't know if you noticed last year, and maybe you didn't on there. We saw it because we were there with it, but after the game's over, everybody's on the field, everybody's there, everybody's on, and it just built. The crowd was on there. Now they're not letting the students on the field. They're not letting anybody on the field. It is a business-like atmosphere down there. The players come over and they sing the alma mater down to the student section, which is really cool, and that's something that's new this year as well. But you don't see a lot building up. And when you talk to these young men and you talk to these coaches after the game, it's like, look, we're getting to work right now on next week. And a lot of these coaches are taking that approach to that.
Yeah, and look, and the thing that I've heard him say is, you as a coach, as a program, you pray for that expectation. Right. You went to the Superdome last year. Cool. Didn't leave it the way you wanted to. So anything less than that is can be looked at as a bust. And while that's not totally the case, it's a good mindset to have. And also really with Ash now, with the program that they've built, a coach prays for the kind of depth that they have right now. So this big time program, where they've gotten to, I'm from Alexandria, where I've seen this Trojan program get to in the past 5 or so years is any program's dream, and certainly for a head coach and a student body. So having a business-like attitude in September, it's exactly where you'd want to be as a program, instead of just taking moral victories or hoping for the best and looking forward to the contenders after the game. Ash is on a mission. Ash is absolutely on a mission to get right back where they were. And they proved it by making quick work of Union on Thursday night, and all eyes are down towards Destrehan for week 3.
And look, it's going to be a long trip to get down there. It's going to be a fun one. Mike McMillan's going to join us in just a minute, but I did want to say that you were up there as the voice of the Union Farmers too, and while it wasn't that pleasant calling it, weren't the hamburgers pretty good from our friends at Sinlock Grill and Chill?
Look, you said we eat good at 446, and no bones about it. Oh yeah, we were well taken care of.
We don't pay well, but we eat really good on there too. Big matchup too that we'll get back to. We're going to jump down to the North Shore in just a moment, but the clock is on for Pineville and Tioga to do battle. Pineville is off and rolling this year. Tioga had a huge win that I don't think anybody outside of Tioga maybe expected what they were going to do to Leesville last night. We'll talk about all of that after we make a trip down to the North Shore. But let's go visit with our buddy Mike McMillan, the president, CEO, guru, whatever you want of the North Shore Prep Report, and he joins us right now. Mike, what's going on this beautiful Saturday morning?
Man, sun is shining. We had some really, really good games here on the North Shore last night and Thursday. But, I think, one of my biggest things is to get with Richie Mills at Friday Night Football and say, hey, who are you covering? What are we covering, right? And pretty much essentially all the big games were here outside of, what happened in the Dome last night. But, Doug, it started on Thursday night. North Lake Christian traveled to Episcopal Baton Rouge. Both those teams are 0-1 going into that game. So somebody's got to come out 0-2. Episcopal leads at halftime. North Lake Christian kind of finds their way in the second half, runs the ball really well. Cameron Casnave ran for 213 yards and 4 touchdowns. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Jordan Willis. Willis had, that's Coach Willis's son there. He had 2 receptions for 57 yards and a touchdown and had 7 carries for 73 yards. But I think his impact on defense was just outstanding. He made a couple of huge pass breakups. Episcopal's got a great quarterback, Zach Hugh. He's a really smart young man, really good baseball player too. But that was a big win for North Lake Christian to get out of there and be back in the winning track. They've got a bye week this week, and then they play at home against Lakeshore, which we'll cover those guys here in a second as well.
Yeah, Mike.
Go ahead.
Yeah, two matchups I had my eye on that surprised me a little bit. Curious to see what you thought about that. Mandeville falling to Madison Prep last night, and also last week you talked about Covington and Franklinton, a really good opportunity for the Demons to go 2-0, but Covington gets them there. Were either of those scores surprise you? And same with Lakeshore over Chalmette, 27-12.
I'll say this. I won't say any score surprised me. Mandeville ended up going to Madisonville Prep with a freshman quarterback. Their 3-year starter got hurt last week. They had an MRI this week, so they're hoping to get those results back soon. Now, that's not a knock on their freshman quarterback. He's going to be very, very good. His name's Crew Kalura. You can keep that name in your Rolodex for a while. He's going to be sensational.
And he played week 1 a good bit, I believe. He had to go in.
He finished that game against Salmon, 4 for 4 with 50 yards. He ran for another 22. I think he threw for a touchdown. So, they've got some talent around him. So they didn't ask him to do too much. I think if you're Coach Jones at Mandeville, I think right now, they gave up a lot of points against Salmon. They gave up another, 30 against Madison Prep. Now, I'll say this: Madison Prep is really good. I know Mike Coppage is really high on those guys. They have a lot of talent. So, I think a loss is never good, right? But for Mandeville to go there and do what they did, without their quarterback, and they get to learn some more, and it's a really good coaching staff. They're gonna be just fine. The other game you mentioned, we had Roger Glenn covering it for us. North Shore Prep, Covington hosted Franklinton. Coach Salt at Franklinton does a great job. Coach Salter at Covington is fantastic. I thought, Marshall, that Covington would win by maybe 2 touchdowns, and early on it looked like that. And that's not a knock on Franklinton. That's just how good I think Covington is. But it's 14-0 early. Covington's up, and it ends up like an onside kick to end the game at 28-26. Franklinton storms back. They've got senior quarterback Jacob Crane, who I think is one of the best in the state. He's a real game manager. He's a coach on the field. He can make all the throws. So they're never out of it. They've got a really good wide receiver in DeMikey's McLean, had a couple big catches there. So that was a massive game. For Covington, I think one of the surprising things was they had a bit of a quarterback battle going into week 1 between senior Andrew Reynolds and junior Matthew Fussell. Coach went with the junior, which, it tells you something, right? When the coach says, hey, the senior's not the guy. And I'll say this, Andrew Reynolds is a very talented quarterback, so that's not a knock on him. But Fussell had a great week 1 against Bogalusa, and I thought, Bogalusa, they're down a little bit. But he ran for 176 yards last night on 15 carries for 2 touchdowns, threw for another 104 and 2 touchdowns. So, he really showed his salt there and continues to get the ball in their weapons' hands. They've got 3 or 4 wide receivers that are really good. Obviously we talk about Jawan Brock all the time, the Texas State commit. But they've got some other guys that can really play, and their defense is fantastic. They had 5 sacks last night, and that's not easy against a Coach Salt offense because he's going to scheme you and try to get rid of the ball. So that was a huge win for Coach Salter. And Marsh, Doug, you got to remember this: Franklinton's only loss last year was at Covington in week 2. So it's like, okay, well, here goes Franklinton now, right? It's week 3, and we can count on some things. But I think Coach Salt will be really proud of how they hung in there and continued to fight. The other big one for us up here was St. Paul's hosting Brother Martin. Right. That was a big one. And in my write-up, the goal was, how can St. Paul's contain Easton Royal, right? Easton Royal is absolutely dynamic. I think he deserves Harlan Berry type publicity. I said that yesterday on a show, and last night against St. Paul's, who has a Division I safety commit and 2 young corners. They're sophomores, but they have Division I offers. He only had 9 catches for 243 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Jeez, what a tremendous hit.
He is dynamic, and they're lining him up all over the place. They're putting him in the backfield. They're running, jet sweeps and fires with him and getting him the ball vertically. But he's dynamic. It's wild. But that was a big win for Brother Martin. I think it ended up 37-27, but that wasn't indicative of how the game went. I think it was 20-20 with about 4 minutes left in the third quarter. St. Paul's had come back and taken the lead there. So they played well. They've got a young quarterback in Brady Pearson. I would say young. He's a junior, but he's new, right? That throws the ball really well on the run, and they're trying to figure that stuff out. But Cody Corrales had a big game running last night. St. Paul's is going to be fine. It's hard for one person on a football field to make that big of a difference, but Easton Royal did it. He's continuing to do it. So I guess the saving grace would be he didn't have a punt return or a kick return for a touchdown, which was probably the goal. Keep the ball out of his hands there. Yeah,
and you mentioned Brother Martin coming out of that 7-on-7, on top. And so assuming at this point there's someone to follow in the Catholic League overall this year through 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, look, Coach Bonus is great, right? And he's always had a really good rushing attack and how he does it. But, one thing that when I talk to a lot of coaches, they talk about is his teams are so prepared early that they're astonished that, like, week 1, they hit the ground running, right? So they're hitting on all cylinders right now. I'm sure that they've got some things that they want to clean up on defense, especially when they get into that Catholic League with some different offenses and, Carr and Warren Eastern, John Curtis and those guys. But offensively, Eastern Royal stays healthy, they're going to be just fine.
Look, you talk about that like there's not much to it. I mean, you say that so matter-of-factly. Well, when they get ready for Carr and Curtis and Warren Easton and all that, that's a gauntlet.
Doug, I talked about that last week a little bit, and I don't know how they do it. I really don't. I mean, it's week in and week out, and you're let's say you're preparing for Carr in week 1 and John Curtis the next week, and it's 2 completely different styles, 2 completely different defenses. It's going to be fantastic. Rummel goes in last night into the Superdome and gets a huge win over U High. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Rummel lost to LCA last week, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, what does that tell you about LCA and what they're doing again?
Look, what a big come from behind win they had last night, too.
Yep.
That was
massive.
That's the stuff they have going on. And you'll be able to hear from them in a couple of weeks on our Tuesday night show down in Lafayette. Coach Chop and that group will be in the Firehouse Subs on College Saloon. And what a night that's going to be.
I'll be tuned in, Doug. I got to get over there for one of those too, man. That's a sensational thing that you do with those coaches shows.
Look,
awesome.
Let me tell you, it was not a difficult. Just say, look, we want to go and find some restaurants and do shows from. Let's go to Lafayette.
There's no doubt, and they feed you well, like Marshall said. One thing about 446 is you're gonna eat good.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, Marshall, what do you have closing for Mike?
Yeah, so Destrehan scored 58 last night on Friday night. Ash scored 57 on Thursday night. Trojans will be down to take on the Wildcats in about 6 days. Let me know. Tell us what you're looking forward to in that game. Destrehan, I think, was 58-20 over Bonneville last night. So that will be a fantastic game, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think for Destrehan and Coach Scott and those guys, it's going to be about what they do on defense. I mean, offense, they drive the ball well. They've got a really good, essentially a power running game with a big back that they mix in with this shotgun spread and throwing the ball around to all their receivers that they have. And they have a lot of receivers. What happened last week against Catholic was they ended up putting Jabari Mack, the LSU wide receiver commit, at defensive back. He returns a touchdown, 100 yards on an interception. They go up 10-0 against Catholic, and that's a good barometer to see where they're at, right? And that's a close game really to the end. Bonneville, they play a good bit. I don't know if competition wise, it was what they needed in week 2, but they go out, they score a lot of points. I don't know how the 20 points were scored, but it's going to be their defense, right? They're going to have to slow people down. They lost some really good talent from last year. So, but Coach Scott and that group is so good. They've got numbers, they've got kids. It's going to be a matter of just putting kids in places and finding out. But, keep your eyes peeled on number 4 in the garnet and gray. Jabbar Mack, he's going to be a fun one to watch. And their quarterback, I want to say he's committed to Central Arkansas. He's Fields he's a great kid. He got hurt last year. I think if he doesn't get hurt, he's really highly recruited. They had a spring game against Carr where he made a couple throws and it hit the web, and then the offer started coming. So he's dynamic. He's like a 4-year starter. So
look, and the strength of the Trojans this year is clearly their defense as well. They've got a front 7. They've got a back half of it. This is going to be – last year you anticipated a big shootout. This year, these are 2 heavyweight defenses that are going to go toe-to-toe in that game on Friday night. Yeah,
it'll be good. Doug, the last game I want to mention here, just 2 more quick things. Lakeshore goes to Chalmette last night in a massive matchup of a really good offense and a really good defense. Lakeshore goes up 21-0 early. Brody Loudermilk is running that wing T offense really well for Coach Indest. They end up winning 27-12, but it's a 21-12 game in the fourth quarter. Actually, in the third quarter, it stayed that way. With about a minute left, I think Chalmette thought that Lakeshore would kneel it, and they ran a play, and they weren't trying to. They weren't trying to score. It opened up, and the kid just run and look back. It was like, okay. So it ends up 27-12, but that's a really good game. But it's 21-0, like in the beginning of the second quarter. So Chalmette's defense locked in. They've got a quarterback, Breeze Wilson, some really good players there. And then the other one, Slidell. Slidell's 2-0 for the first time in 11 years. If you guys hear me talk about Slidell, I'm really high on Coach Page and that group. Their running back, Jaquan Jones, ran for 180 yards last week against a really good Lutcher team. He runs for another 173 yards last night. They've got a junior quarterback, Ricky Williams. UL Lafayette commit, tight end flex, Jeremiah Birdlow. He's 6'4", 230 and can run. And then Carlos Fleming's a wide receiver on the outside who's long and speedy. He had a big game last night as well. So big one for them. And then Fontainebleau gets off the snide and gets their first win of the season. Ran the ball really well for Coach Cavanaugh last night. But overall, a great night. I'll be updating the standings and stuff tomorrow. And then we'll do what we do. We put the schedules out for next week on Monday. And then follow us Tuesday and Wednesday for the stat leaders and all the player cards that we started putting out to kind of highlight the kids.
Look, I tell you, and we'll let you get out of here too. Go check out the North Shore Prep Report on Facebook, on all the social medias, and you'll get all of the stats. And I wish that I had the time and energy to put out the effort into that you do. But you can find out everything that's going on there. Mike McMillan, the North Shore Prep Report. Go down there and check him out. Mike, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Y'all enjoy and enjoy your weekend. We'll see you next Saturday.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, bye-bye.
And that'll wrap that up. We appreciate Mike joining us on there too. Another Sinlock game that I wanted to mention. We had both sides of it covered last night. Buckeye and Grant.
The Squirrel Bowl.
Buckeye comes into Grant and is way more. Grant put up 72 points behind or 76 points behind Ahmad Sykes and his 10 touchdowns at 420. Ahmad was held off the board last night, and Buckeye really, really in control of that one with physicality from start to finish in that game too. But,
I think he might have had a touchdown call back, but in any case, Buckeye with, I believe, about 45 points or so in week 1, matched that effort in week 2. So Coach York got that offense on the move, and they'll take the trophy home this year.
Absolutely. So a lot of fun in that one. Coach York and the Buckeye Panthers 2-0. Congratulations to those guys. And congratulations to the guy that finds a way to cover basketball in the middle of football season, it looked like. Chaston Tavares, man, what kind of game was that y'all had?
when you pick a game of the week, especially in high school football, you truly never know what you're gonna get. This is my 9th year doing it, and what can be the best matchup on paper can sometimes turn out to be one of the worst football games, and vice versa. The worst matchups often are the best matchups. We went into Barb Lake Charles College Prep knowing that there would be a lot of points. This is, two teams who probably likely struggle on defense, but offensively, athletes all over the field with offensive firepower. And look, I don't know if in my wildest dreams if I could have ever dreamed of what we got on Thursday night. They tell you often, sometimes you have a game that you'll never forget. And that is what we got on Thursday night. I will tell my kids, I will tell my grandkids, I will tell people about Barb and Lake Charles College Prep for a long time. Needless to say, we're almost 2 days removed from that. I've got to do a college game tonight. My voice is still struggling because look, there's a lot of points. I get super fired up when I get to call games like that. And 70-65, the final score. Lake Charles College Prep actually down 25. Barb started it out. They go all the way down the field, score the touchdown, and then Lake Charles College Prep comes out, throws a pick six. The more impressive part about Lake Charles College Prep in this football game, they didn't have their star quarterback in Dylan Vital. And to do all of that, have guys that in games like that, you have to have guys step up, and they did. Running back Philip Hunter and wide receiver Aiden Carter. Aiden Carter was just marvelous in that football game. But Barb got up 13-0, and you're like, oh man, this might get ugly. I mean, we're 2 minutes into the football game, and it's 13-0. And next play, first play from scrimmage, Aiden Carter goes 80 yards to the house, and that would be how the night went. I mean, I think we had two different occasions where we had 3 back-to-back-to-back touchdowns on back-to-back-to-back plays. It was bizarre. Lake Charles College Prep down 25 at halftime. Finds enough defense. They held Barb to 14 points in the second half. And found a way to win. They won the game on defense. They had to get a stop to win it, and they found a way to do it. And it was spectacular. And look, that in games like this that you have to come back from down so much, you also need a little luck as well. And Barb got that, or Lake Charles College Prep got that. Barb is driving with a chance to pretty much end the game, go up, 3-4 scores once again in the third quarter. They hook up for a massive touchdown to Kuipers. Lake Charles College Prep is chasing him down at the 5-yard line, dives after him. The football goes out of the back of the end zone. It was very close to actually being ruled a touchdown. The officials go with it. No replay in high school football. The officials go with the call on the field, which was a touchback, which gave Lake Charles College Prep the football and gave them a stop on defense. It was one of the more bizarre games you'll ever see in high school football.
Chaston, we had Turlings Catholic on 446 here last night. You picked them over Sam Houston. They got the job done. They're 2-0. Sam Houston's 1-1. That's another really good week 2 matchup for both schools, in my opinion.
Yeah, look, Sam Houston, I didn't know what we would really get from them this year. They've got Gavin Rowe at quarterback. I think they're replacing 35 some odd seniors, most of which being starters on that on especially on the offensive side of the football. And defensively they were already a little shaky last year. But they turn around and they get the big win over to Leesville to start the year, to start week 1. I just knew that would be a tough matchup. Anytime you're taking on Turlings, that is going to be a tough matchup. And look, it was a lot of Turlings early. Sam Houston started with a 3-and-out, or I believe turned it over on downs in the first drive, and then it was pretty much all Turlings from there on out. But I'll be interested to see what Sam Houston is able to do moving forward. Again, it's still a bunch of young kids playing for Coach Chad Davis, and he is a heck of a coach. I actually, it was funny because he texted me on Thursday night. I got a text message from nearly half the coaches in Southwest Louisiana. All of them telling me, "Hey, we're tuned in." I said, you guys should be in bed. We're at the 4-hour mark of this football game.
Look, that Turlings team is going to be one to watch under first year coach Mikey Corville. We have them. We're honored to have them on Monday nights from Pizza Village on Moss Street for the Coach Corville show, and there are a lot of passionate fan bases. So it's hard to single out one that's a passionate fan base. But that group from Turlings Catholic, the Rebels, really are behind this team this year. They love coming out. The pizza's good. Don't get me wrong. Yes. But the good times are there. And talked to Coach Mikey last night a little bit after that game, because he had said that one of the problems, and he's been with a few different teams, first time head coaching going into Sam Houston, that they've struggled coaching in games against Sam Houston. But he exercised that demon last night, and he was so fired up when he texted me back that I'm not going to relay the text that was out there, but they're off and running.
Yeah, no, that is look, again, it's just a tough matchup for Sam Houston, especially as young as they are. That's why I picked Turlings Catholic to win that football game.
Y'all had a lot of homers in the group though that were picking Sam Houston, I saw.
Well, there was a lot of homers, I guess, all over the group. We all picked Leesville. There's not really much to know. I didn't know a whole lot about Tioga. We all picked Leesville over Tioga. That went wrong. We also
picked DeRidder too over Manny, I believe.
We also picked DeRidder over Manny. I had high expectations for DeRidder. They are super banged up. I know they had a couple of more injuries last night. So, looks like Tyler Hassel's turned things around there at the Big M.
Yeah, I got a week 1 win over Logansport and took care of the Dragons last night. Another 2-0 team from down 165. Kinder Yellow Jackets able to, I think they were against Iota last night, but they're 2-0, I believe.
Yeah, no, that was another game that I was really intrigued to see. And, Iota struggled to score in week 1. Kinder gets the win last night, 59-41 over Iota. One thing about Kinder, when you look at them, is they're going to be able to score. Quarterback Isaiah Thomas is an absolute freak. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago on this very program. Isaiah Thomas is a freak. Defensively, I've been a little shocked. I'm sure Coach Justin Reed isn't probably too happy. They gave up a lot of points last week, gave up a lot of points again this week. So they've certainly got some things to work out. I've been kind of eyeing that matchup. I think in week 5 they're going to be taking on Logansport's going to be coming down, which could be an interesting football game. But one thing about it, they are going to be able to score, and they've proved that already.
Chaston, what do you see in week 3 as we roll into that? What's when do you guys pick your matchup where you're going, and what do you see? Like, gosh, I wish we were covering this one, but we're going to be here.
Well, like I said earlier, when we pick a game of the week, it's so tough, because you could look at a matchup and it'd be tremendous. Last week I looked at Iowa Jennings and I was like, I have no idea who's going to win this football game. I like the first 2 weeks I've had no idea who was going to win either football game. Iowa ends up blowing out Jennings in week 1. We do get a good one in week 2, but it didn't start that way. When it was 25 points at halftime, I was like, oh boy. Look at me with the excellent game of the week pick again, but I'm glad. I'm certainly glad that I stuck with that football game. But look, we're actually picking a little bit early this year. We're trying to stay a little bit ahead because of our to get engagement with our new pigskin preview show that's been at Walk-Ons, which has been great. We've had 2 packed houses. So this week we're going to be going to Vinton. We got two new teams on our game of the week for the year. It's going to be Hamilton Christian and Vinton, 2-0 teams, 2 teams who also got a win last night. And
Coach Dex.
Coach Dex. I texted him the other night and I was like, hey, just remember, it was his birthday, I think on Wednesday. I texted him. I said, hey, happy birthday, but do remember, put it on your calendar. I know you forget. You got to be with me next Wednesday night. He just hit me with a love and said, I got you. But there is some interesting games in week 3 when you look at the schedule. I mean, Parkview Baptist is coming down to take on Iowa. Jennings and Welsh is going to be an interesting one because, Jennings, they've struggled. I mean, they got a win last night over Eunice. Eunice played better in week 1. Obviously, that was a team that went 0 for last year. So that'll be an intriguing matchup just on the Jennings side, just to see, if they can get things done. Not really scoring offensively. I think they scored 21 points last night. couple of other matchups. I will be very interested to watch that Manny Leesville score. Leesville hasn't done much of anything. You know, we knew they would be able to score, but defensively, it has been tough for the Wampus Cats here in the early going. You mentioned Buckeye a little bit ago. South Beauregard will be playing them. That'll I think could be a matchup to watch. And then Washington Marion and Westlake is another game that I really like. Marion has played better. I mean, they're now 2-0, I believe. They lost last night to South Beauregard, but they played South Beauregard really, really well and really, really close. Westlake off to a 2-0 start. So that's just a couple of games that I've been looking at. Obviously headlined, I think, by Hamilton Christian and Vinton, which could be a lot of fun. I get to see one of the best athletes, not only in Southwest Louisiana, but the entire state, in Javon Vital. So that'll be exciting.
Yeah, there's one week 3 matchup I'll be looking at. Westgate and LCA will play this Friday night. And Westgate, I believe, took on Southside last night. Southside's 1-0. You mentioned Manny. Jess Curtis is down there now. Have you heard anything about how the Sharks are looking through 2 weeks and kind of what they would have expected this early part of the season to look like?
I have not, but I will tell you, look, with Jess Curtis down there at Southside, that is a program that is an up and coming. I mean, look, they were already good. They were good last year. They've already started off strong this year. Look, Jess is, when it comes to defense, I mean, good luck. I mean, I got to watch plenty of those games. I actually texted my buddy up in doing the DeRitter game last night at Manny. I said, because it was not a good game there in the third quarter. I texted him. I said, feels like one of those Rose Pine Manning quarterfinal games that we did for numerous years in a row there last night. So yeah, I don't know, but Jess Curtis is a great coach. I'm not sure much about that matchup though.
Look, so Southside dropped week 1 to Notre Dame in one that shocked a lot of folks.
I believe that came down to a 4th down stop. So I mean, a close game there.
They rebounded last night and won that game. And Southside and Coach Jess will be on the Pelican Sports Report Tuesday night at Firehouse Subs on Collie Saloon. So just to throw that in, it is the Shark Takeover on Tuesday night. We had Acadiana last week. We will have Southside this week. So a lot of big matchups.
Never stops. The grind never stops, baby. That should be a lot of fun.
All right, I'm going to let you get out of here, Chaston. You guys are great. I know you've got a game to get ready for tonight, but when you go in on Wednesday night to walk-ons, it's new. You got to look at the special menu, the Buffalo Chicken Nachos.
Yep.
Yes, that's the deal. But we do our show on Thursday nights from walk-ons, and you can see the weight gain because every show I talk about is at a different restaurant. So there you have it.
There it is.
We appreciate you for stopping in with us. Good luck on your call tonight, my friend.
Yep. Thanks, guys, for having me. You guys have a good one.
There you go. So, you talk to Chaston about that, man, and it's just they're going out and seeing these games in that Lake Charles area on there. He talked about Turling's Catholic. He talks about Barbie. He talks about all these. Man, we look at all of the good stuff down at North Shore. Then you get over into Southwest Louisiana and man, there's a lot of good football over here.
Yeah, so look, sometimes an hour isn't enough on Saturday mornings to discuss, and sometimes 10 weeks or more isn't enough to figure out how good you think your team is. A couple other scores that were brought to you by 446 last night. Menard took on the Gina Giants. Gina won that game 56-3. They're looking really strong through 2 weeks with kind of their bevy of talent in their offensive backfield, and obviously defensively, I think held Menard, their starters to under 100 yards of offense last night. So tough night for the Eagles, but congrats to the Giants. Tioga, you mentioned, that was a really great win over Leesville, 56-20. St. Mary stumbled a little bit going against Red River. That was a 20-14 score. So I believe the Tigers fall to 0-2 through 2 weeks.
A game that was 14-12 at the half. So St. Mary's had fallen behind 12-7. They come back in and get a halftime, and we're getting updates in our text group that updates the scores that you have across the bottom of the screen. Man, it's just it's nothing going on. You see all these scores everywhere else, and then you get a late touchdown with 6 minutes to go. And that Red River team is for real this year. Got a new coach that has been with them for a while. I mean, was an alumni there of Red River. So the Bulldogs are back down there.
Yeah, and it'll be. That's usually in my opinion, an entertaining district for St. Mary's. Once they start facing off with LaSalle, Montgomery, Northwood, those type of matchups that they'll get into, that'll be that'll be a good chance for them to right the ship a little bit, get back in the win column.
There you go.
And then we also mentioned Turling's getting a win, 46-14 over Sam Houston. A couple other Sinlaw scores before we talk with Jace LeJeune. Bunkie 32, St. Louis Catholic 13, Faraday 56, Block nothing, Caldwell 21, Winfield 12, and then we mentioned Manny 1. That was 49-21 over DeRitter. And the Tigers are 2-0, much like a few other Sinlaw teams, Ash, Pineville, Gina. It's usually kind of interesting this part of the year to look and see, is anyone 0-2 that you wouldn't have expected, and has anyone got a little bit of momentum going, as we move through September?
Look, Pineville definitely does. Manny was 0-10 last year, and now to jump out 2-0 this year on that storied tradition as well. But speaking of storied tradition, that's what they have at the Gridiron Football USA. And let's bring in Jace LeJeune, who is going to join us this morning. And the Gridiron Football USA All-American Bowl is the title sponsor of the Red River Roundup. And, man, that thing is getting in full swing. Jace LeJeune, what's happening?
What's going on, Doug and Marshall? It's a beautiful Saturday morning. I know we're about to get our college football fix going on a little bit, but we have to talk about some high school football action last night. And, week 2 did not disappoint. So we had a post-game show yesterday, talked about it, the scores around the state, and looking forward to talking a lot more week 2 high school football.
Yeah, some really huge games in the Baton Rouge area over the weekend. Thursday night, Dunham put up 63 points over Live Oak. We talked about Zachary a little bit last week, a top 10 team, 30-14 over Acadiana. I was really trying to follow as closely as I could Catholic and St. Thomas More. That was a one-possession game. Central comes out with a close win over Denham Springs. U-High falls to Rummel. And Lutcher out of the River Parishes, they actually got shut out going against St. Charles. So really a ton of big matchups with some kind of telling scores in your area this weekend.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there were a lot of interesting scores. You talked about it really started with Thursday night. You talked about that Dunham score against Live Oak. Elijah Haven, I mean, what can you say about him? And got a chance to watch. I know. I mean, he's incredible. I was able to call a game. It was Episcopal and him, and I think he just turned like 14, and he goes off and has like 5 touchdowns in the football game. But he's just a great guy. Just talking to him over the years, and he's still hard to believe that he's only a junior, and he's still got another year after this. But 8 touchdowns. He threw for over 400 yards. He ran for over 100 yards. And this is against a 5A football team in Live Oak that he did against. So, I mean, what can you say about this kid? And he just handles himself like somebody that's like 30 years older than what he really is. I mean, just an overall, not only just, you only get like a once-in-a-generation type of talent like that, but just the human being that he is. I mean, he's a complete package.
Well, and he's out of that class of 27 that is loaded with talent, loaded with quarterbacks. We saw him. We had our first live look at him in the Dome last year as a sophomore, and he just did what Elijah Haven does on there. And you start drawing comparisons between him and Pop Houston up at Evangel because they are class 27 quarterbacks that are leading the way, getting all the offers that you'll ever imagine. You throw them to those guys and say, hey, this. But talk about that class of 27, just the talent that is out there.
Yeah. I mean, the quarterback talent in the 2027 class is unbelievable. I mean, it kind of rivals a couple years ago when you're talking about it was Arch Manning, it was Ricky Collins, it was Eli Holstein. So kind of like that quarterback class. We're kind of looking at that 2027 quarterback class in the same way. Talk about Pop Houston as well as Evangel, and they put over 60 points last night too after really pushing Neville. I mean, down to the wire in week 1, and two different styles of quarterback play, completely different. with Pop Houston and Elijah Haven, but both effective in their own way. And they're just so fun to watch. And it's hard to believe that, high school defenses in Louisiana have to put up with them for another year after this year. So it's just unbelievable what they're doing around the state. And I know that quarterback class was good with Manning and Collins and that, but this actually might even be better. It's insane to say that.
Well, you get deeper into it too, because Ash's quarterback is a junior, Carson Sellers, who can spin it as good as anybody. And then the quarterback that they were a 1 and a 1A last year, who is down at Central now, Max Gassett. Those guys are, I won't say under the radar quarterbacks, because if you look at them and know what's going on, you see it, but they don't have an 8 touchdown performance like that, or they don't throw over 800 yards, because that's the way that Northwest division, that 5-1A is going to be. They're going to chunk it around a lot on there, but man, there's some quarterback stock.
Yeah, and Bryce Restovich over there at Loyola College.
That's
a guy that you really need to pay attention to. He went to our camp at Evangel Christian, and a guy that we promoted a whole lot. And he's going to be he's a really good quarterback. If it wasn't for Pop Houston, I think Bryce would be talked about a lot more. And,
they're off to a great start.
I mean, I think 55 points in week 1. I think 47 in week 2. So they're really flying. I mean, no pun intended there, but
I see what you did there.
Yeah, but really, I mean, talk about the 2026 class, or Gridiron Football Player of the Week. I mean, Cooper Babin over at Santa Mall is just putting up incredible numbers in our Baton Rouge area. So, and he had 8 touchdowns against Cecilia. He had 4 rushing, 4 passing against Cecilia on Thursday. So a lot of crazy scores going on. You mentioned that Central game as well. Denham Springs is really good this year. They are senior heavy, and they're going to be a threat for that district, along with Sam Mall, like we talked about. Catholic talked to Coach Fuller last night. Big win to come back and beat St. Thomas More. That was a really big victory for them. And I actually went to the Lafayette area last night. Usually I just kind of stay in Baton Rouge and cover some games for Gridiron. But I went to go see LCA in Karen Crow last night.
You saw a battle then. You saw a great one.
That was a great game. It was like the Brandon Walker, Braden Allen, Brandon Walker, the UL Raging Cajun commit quarterback. And then you got Braden Allen over the Tulane commit. They connected for 3 touchdowns in the game. And then Carson Gursey, who played in, as you know, Doug, in a Gridiron Football Junior High All-American game. And
years ago. Yeah.
It seems like it's a year ago. I mean, it's crazy. Right. And he's really looking like, talk about 2028. He's looking like one of the top quarterbacks in the state for that class. And Chance Babin, was such a special player, the Nichols commit for Karen Crow. It went back and forth, and it was going to come down to whoever had the football last. And it just turned out that they left a little time left on the clock for Karen Crow to get anything going with 30 seconds left. But both those two teams showed you why they're able to defeat Rummel and St. Thomas More in week 1. Both those two teams, after watching them last night, they're for real.
Jace, what do you see in that week 3 matchup between Catholic High and U High? I believe that game is a home game for U High, but really a good measuring stick game for the Cubs. And the Bears will be, I keep an eye on that Division I select bracket, of course. So really interested to see, where they fit in that.
Yeah, absolutely, Marshall. That's actually the game I'm going to be at next week. I mean, it makes too much sense. I mean, it's the biggest game in the Baton Rouge area. I'm not calling Episcopal next week, so I'm not conflicted with that. So I'm going to go see Catholic and U High. And there's a little bit let's just say both teams aren't going to be exchanging Christmas cards with each other at the end of the year. Let's just say that. But it's a Baton Rouge rivalry. It's kind of like two of the biggest premier schools going up against each other. U High, like you mentioned earlier, coming off a loss in the Superdome. The one before and the car and American Heritage were to play, and it hung in there with Rummel for a little bit, but Rummel was able to overwhelm them a little bit in the second half, and we'll see how they bounce back against Catholic. And Catholic, talking to Coach Fuller, I asked him on our show last night, what y'all got coming up? Y'all got the Kansas City Chiefs coming up. I mean, week 1 you played Destrehan, week 2 you played St. Thomas More, and week 3 you got UI. So I mean, it shows you what kind of non-district schedule the Catholic High Bears have. But their biggest players stepped up last night. Blaine Bradford had a couple. The Ohio State commit, couple of stops last night, a 4th down stop, couple turnovers. And you talk about Jaden Miles. He had a lot of big plays offensively. The 2027 running back has got all kinds of offers from colleges across the country. So it's going to be a lot of star power. Lamar Brown, Blaine Bradford. So it's going to be a lot of star power, and it's going to be pretty much the whole city of Baton Rouge will be there at UI on Friday night.
Look, when we saw a couple of years ago when Southern played LSU, there was more traffic in Baton Rouge and around that. The traffic delays were more than you ever see. I think we see that again in this one, no doubt. Tell me, guys, both of you too, how ridiculously talented is that select Division I this year? It's just insane.
Yeah, and what a statement last night by Edna Carr. I mean, it was. I was kind of looking at. We were doing the show like at 1 o'clock in the morning, 12:30, 1 o'clock, and they were just about to wrap it up. So it was kind of unusual seeing that. But to make a statement, I mean, these are 2 football powerhouse states in Louisiana and Florida, and knowing that Edna Carr was playing against American Heritage, they came back and won that football game, came back from behind and won that in overtime. Very impressive win for Coach Bryce Brown. And I mean, the Cougars just keep on trucking. I mean, you talk about Division I select. I mean, Catholic High as well. I mean, Ash. I mean, look at the statement they did against Union Parish. There's not often that Coach Joe Spatafora loses like that, 57-0. But yeah, it's John Curtis is looking really great to start season 2 at 2-0. There's going to be a lot of big-time candidates this year to make a run Division I select.
There you have it. All right, Jace, we appreciate it. We know you've got stuff to get to today. Where do you find yourself today? A little tussle down there in Baton Rouge?
Just a little bit. SEC opener, I'll be there. LSU in Florida, I'll be there in the press box covering the action there. So if you want to get updated, if you can't make it to the game or can't find a TV or anything, you can find social media. I'll live tweet throughout the game at Jace LeJeune, and then obviously we'll have a post-game recap and write-up on GridironFootballUSA.com as well.
Look, there's not a pound of gator meat to be found around here. They are set for the tailgates. So do you go a little bit early and just go make your way around the tailgate parties?
Yeah, but with traffic and everything, just trying to make my way. I want to try to catch as much college football as I can. Then I head over there around 3:30 or so, and get there pretty early and try to get there for warm-ups and everything. So that's kind of like a typical Saturday.
You guys will be here in Pineville. Speaking of football, you guys will be in here in Pineville at Louisiana Christian University for the game coming up on December 30th, the Gridiron All-American Bowl game. Marshall is joining me in the booth today, as we will call LCU and Wayland Baptist, and that is now the Sooner Athletic Conference game of the week. So we are delighted to be on the call for that one. So it happens to be about the same as that little tussle in Baton Rouge. So we'll keep you posted on that one too.
Absolutely. I mean, LC, I'm really excited to bring the bowl game back in Pineville. I know that's where Andy started at LCU, and to bring it back, we're really excited about it. We have a couple of announcements coming up. We'll bring back our we call Going Bowling show pretty soon, and that's we'll talk about all things the Gridiron Bowl game. And we got a couple commits already, so we'll make those announcements pretty quickly. So there's a lot of big things coming up. It seems like the bowl game, ever since I've been here, it's getting bigger and bigger each and every year. That's the way we're going.
And it's my understanding you got a young man coming. We won't announce anything coming from a long way away again.
Yeah, that's how it is. I mean, I think we kind of set the bar with 2 players coming from Canada a couple of years ago playing in a bowl game, so making an international bowl game there. So yeah, let's just say we got somebody probably going to use their flight miles to get over here.
Yeah, we'll see if we can restock the fried alligator freezer by late December.
That's right. One of your alumni, Zeke Carwile, is playing with Pikeville in Kentucky is where they're at. They're 2-0 and ranked number 20 in the NAIA. You remember him, one of those from Alabama.
Yep. Zeke was just all over the field making plays. I'm really happy he's doing a great thing. And if you go to our website, I'm going to plug the website real quick because we actually had three guys, just recently that played in last year's bowl game. It shows you how much the talent is just getting better and better each and every year. 3 guys are already making an impact in like their first college game. Ellis Stewart, as you know, the Cecilia wide receiver that was the MVP last year. Well, they played Texas Tech in week 1. He plays for Arkansas Pine Bluff. And the only touchdown scored in that game against Texas Tech was him. He called a touchdown pass against the Red Raiders. And then Chad Elzy over there, the former Ascension Catholic running back, he scored an 85-yard touchdown for Kentucky State in his first game and had over 130 yards of all-purpose yards. And then recently, last week, Rajon Zeno, former Jennings running back, he scored 4 touchdowns in his first game for Millikan University. That's their first win since 2022. And he just comes in and runs for 4 touchdowns. So really incredible performance by him. And it just comes to show you what the talent already and the level of talent that we have at the bowl game and how they're already making an impact at the college level.
Well, we appreciate the work that you guys do and the support that you have for us and look forward to being on the call of that game one more time. Ellis Stewart has a record that'll probably never be broken. He caught the game winner in the Superdome to win a state title, and he caught the game winner in the Gridiron All-American Bowl as well, and had a backflip both times, I think.
Yeah, he was able to show off.
Tremendous young talent. Jace, thank you, and good luck down at LSU today. We look forward to talking to you again.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you all for having me. Looking forward to chatting next week.
There you go. We'll see you then.
See you, Jason.
Jace LeJeune, always a pleasure to visit with him. And Marshall, the beauty of in radio, you guys can't really do this. But if we have to go a little past 9 o'clock, that's okay. I know we're not up against a hard day. But I want to make sure that we cover all of the notes that you had because the night off, it wasn't a night off. You were sitting there bouncing around every game that there was. So what do you see that maybe stood out that we haven't covered this morning?
Yeah, I do think Neville, that Neville game over Calvary, 38-14. I always try to pay as close attention as I can to 2-5A, just because, in a couple weeks, it's just going to be heavyweight slugfest. But that was a real quality win for Neville. Washita also
14-14 at one point before Neville just took over.
Yes, but I think it was a 1-possession game, into the third quarter, if I'm not mistaken. But Neville really, it seems like just starting at the beginning of the summer, you heard that momentum just keep building and building as both their coaching staff and their 2D, kind of starts to coalesce and really settle in there. Washita also, I think, went over 50 points against Wassman, who's that's certainly not a bye week ever against the Wassman Wildcat. So I've kind of had a few doubts about if Washita is going to be, a contender at the level of Neville, Ruston, Ash in that district. But, they kind of shut me up last night with that performance. And West Monroe 2-0 as well, with a win last night over Pulaski. So we told you so because everyone else did. But 2-5A so far is going to be both in the polls and in the power rankings by the time district play starts. I can't wait for some of those district matchups to kick off.
Here's a campaign that we need to start right now. The heck with playing in the Arkansas and Florida Techs, all that non-district schedule. Let's take 2-5A. Let's take Catholic League, and there's your non-conference games, and let's battle those. It will meet in the middle somewhere, or however you got to do it. Let's get those two districts playing each other in non-conference games.
Yeah. The Catholic League will be a huge part of Ash's playoff bracket, and Pineville's for that matter. They're 2-0, so we'll see where they can end up in there. But I mean, that district is super intriguing. And then kind of staying with that district, the Ash and Desterham matchup next week. I mean, it's huge. That's a huge trip for Ash. It's a tough road trip, but it's like you mentioned at the start of the broadcast. That's a business trip for Coach Bachman and crew.
Yeah. One of the great things about that notwithstanding that it is a tremendous matchup, is that it's close to the airport, and we'll hop a flight out of that into Abilene to cover a 1:00 start with LCU next Saturday. So, but you joined us in the booth today for LCU and Wayland Baptist, the Sooner Athletic Conference game of the week. So we're excited to have that on there. But give me your thoughts on that a little early on.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would be we're thrilled for everyone that tunes in and watches that with us. If you can't make it to the game, but if you can, it is going to be a beautiful day out there. I have the privilege of seeing that field just about every morning on my morning commute right at sunrise. And it's just such a beautiful stadium, beautiful campus right there, the area. So if you're looking for something to do late summer, Saturday in Louisiana, definitely come to the game. It's going to be great weather, and it's going to be a good game. And man, looking at that roster, looking at LCU's roster, it is chock full of LHSAA alumni, which is good for guys like me and you, because we're familiar with those players. But B, really, to me, it showed, I remember when Marty Secord, came back and restarted that program. His wife was a teacher at my school. So I remember at that age kind of, say, okay, what is local college football in my hometown? And what it is an opportunity for a ton of great athletes from around the state to continue their football career after they get their high school diploma. I saw Isaiah McKinney, a guy from Grant High School that's on that roster now. Saw a lot of players from Ash, that some of them that had a good week last week.
Starting running back, starting wide receiver, both from Alexandria.
All over the state, really. I mean, Lafayette, New Orleans. I mean, just about every major program, Oak Grove, you name it, is represented on that Wildcat roster. Being coached by an alum, by a former Letterman. It's grassroots college football at its purest, and what a great way for the collegiate level of football to continue to serve LHSAA graduates that want to keep playing, want to keep getting in there between the sidelines, and so it's great to see. It's one thing if it's just a pass-through school from this community college, in Kansas, or another one in Florida or something like that, but no, this is homegrown talent, where these families can come to the games, where these fans of these programs can continue to follow their athletes. And gosh, what a great extension, and what a great resource for Louisiana football to continue past those high school days.
And there you have it. Last year, Wayland Baptist took a 49-44 victory in there. And Coach Ben McLaughlin and I, the aforementioned coach you talked about, an All-American from LCU at quarterback years ago. His banner still hangs under the rafters there of the bleachers of the stadium because of his All-American status. But they are ready for business in here, riding a high off of that big Langston win last week in Oklahoma. Defense for the Cats is the real deal. We'll see more of that. Marshall, it's been a great Saturday morning. Certainly appreciate what you do. Appreciate last week you flying solo, literally, while I was off flying to that game on there. But you did a tremendous job, and appreciate having you on board with 446 Sports. Yep.
Yeah, it's the most wonderful time of the year.
There you go. Guys, that's going to wrap it up for us. Get out to your games. Turnover game day. We've built the stage, I think, for the college game day. Go out and check that out. That's a recap of a lot of things that happened. It's not all of it, but there's a bunch of shows. Again, big congratulations to Jordan Taylor and that Under the Lights group who made their way into Arlington to call some football today. It's going to be a tremendous Saturday, and it started right here, and we thank you for joining us. For Marshall Loeffler, I am Doug Gann. God bless you all, and have a great day.